Sephiria. This is developed by Team Hooray. I believe this is a South Korean company. And I was very excited for this game when it was announced because, for those of you who don't know, this is by the people that did DUNGREED. And if you don't know DUNGREED and you like action roguelikes, then you should just stop this video and go play DUNGREED. DUNGREED is probably one of the top action roguelikes in my opinion. It is a massive hidden gem, and they've put in a lot of love and care in that game. It was a game that has been released for quite a while, and they kept on adding more content throughout the years, including like a massive kind of DLC for free. I mean, I just really loved the way that they really cared about their games and the kind of work they did. So I was really excited to see what other game they were going to do. And here it is. So this is currently in early access, which is pretty important to note because I do believe there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be added, especially if it was going to be similar to DUNGREED, then I expect them to add a lot to this game. Whether that's going to be the case or not, we shall see, but I really hope so. I do have a lot to talk about, so let's just jump right into it. So I'm going to start with what I usually like to start with, which are the audio visual, the overall charm and vibe of the game. So this game, if you've played DUNGREED, then you know that they kind of take themselves fairly seriously, but with a pretty cute like art style. And I mean, if you just look at the hub, for instance, I mean, there's a lot of care put into it, especially with the beautiful music behind it. There's a great vibe, and there's a sense of adventure from the very start. The introduction really takes itself fairly seriously, almost like anime vibe for a lot of this stuff. You play these little rabbit creatures, which are absolutely adorable. I love them so much. Story, just like in DUNGREED, has a pretty serious tone and kind of goes pretty deep, all things considered. I mean, not like crazy deep, but for a game like this, it can be a little surprising, and I really do like that. In this game, everybody gets a role, you know, like oh, you're gonna be a tank, you're gonna be the support, you know, like without breaking the fourth wall, but then you seem to be the chosen one, and you see the future, and you see that this entire hub world is gonna get destroyed, and you're like, oh no, and the tree spirit is telling you, don't worry, you know, you can change the future or something like that, or prevent the future from happening, something in that regard. Then you have to go down and go kill the leader of the army that is apparently going to, you know, change this unfortunate realm into something much darker and sad. That's kind of the lore. As you can see, I'm not super deep into it myself, unfortunately. I kind of lost track a little bit of it as I was just really excited about the gameplay overall, which I will be definitely talking about. Art style, I think, is lovely. It really has its own vibe. If you've played DUNGREED, then this is going to definitely be recognizable, which is cool. They really kept their own style, which I like. Yeah, not only is the art style really nice, but also the animation. There's a lot of detail put into, again, the world building, right? This entire thing feels like an adventure, which was the case with DUNGREED, which is awesome. This is one of the best parts of this game, similar to DUNGREED, is that this really feels like an RPG experience with a lot of secrets and really cool things that you can discover. The discovery aspect is really charming and is only going to get better throughout the months, is my prediction. So that is definitely one of the coolest parts of this game for me. And if you liked it in DUNGREED, you will definitely like it in this game. The music is amazing. If you knew DUNGREED's music, then you know that DUNGREED's music is one of my favorite roguelike soundtracks out there. The music is fantastic, absolutely beautiful, fairly emotional at times. I'm definitely going to be listening to outside of the game as well. The sound design is also very nice, which was great in DUNGREED as well. So yeah, audio, visuals, animation, VFX, all that stuff is top notch for me. The one thing I will say visually that it can be a little tricky is sometimes it can get a little messy visually when you get to late game and you have a lot of things going on. There's not like a distinct kind of enemy projectile, right? Enemy projectiles can be of different colors, different forms, and so do your personal projectile weapons, right? So there's no distinction between one enemy's like thing and one ally's thing on screen. So yes, you can get familiar with the different bullets, all things considered, but in general, it can get a little confusing at times, especially since one of the biggest differences from DUNGREED to this game is that DUNGREED was a 2D side-scrolling action roguelike, while this is top-down, which is a kind of a cool, difference. They kept the same art style, but a different camera angle. Now, obviously, 2D side-scrolling is one of the easiest things to see visually. It's way easier to get lost in a top-down game, and even more so in 3D games, obviously. But here, I mean, the top-down 2D is definitely in the in-between, but once again, without the differentiation between enemy and allied things, you are going to get a little lost, especially when you get started, once you get to the late game portion of the run. But outside of that, all the visuals, all that good stuff, wonderful. So, let's talk about the meat of this game. Let's talk about all the gameplay, all that good design stuff in there. There's quite a lot to talk about. But before I move on, I do have to say, once again, this game, it really does focus on the adventure side of the game, like discovery, like really going from one biome to another and discovering all the boss and everything is part of the experience. So, obviously, I want people to keep that in mind while watching this video, because I'm going to be playing some footage. I'm not going to show the final area of the game, but I just wanted to put that out there. If you really don't want any of the experience ruined, then feel free to just listen to my voice or just play it yourself. But again, this is in early access, so there's still not everything implemented anyway. Back to gameplay. In this game, you're going to end up having a choice of 3 weapons. Right here, you got your sword and shield, which is what you're going to be starting with. And for all of these weapons, you have the same mechanics, right? You have your basic attack, which has a combo, boom, 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 kind of thing, right? You have your special, and the special is going to be dependent on the weapon. For this weapon, it's a shield. You can block what's in front of you, and if you want, while you're blocking, you can also do an attack to do a big swing attack. This does use mana, and blocking also uses mana. The next thing is also going to be your dash attack. When you dash, and after you attack, you get your dash attack. So you get your dash, you get your normal attacks, you get your special, and that is, I think, everything. So there's really not that much here. Now, if you switch weapons, the big weapon obviously is going to feel different. A special for this guy is you charge up an attack and then you do a big swing. But other than that, it's fairly similar. All 3 weapons do feel, a little different from one another, but ultimately the core gameplay is very simple. And there's a good reason for it. I mean, I think it's fairly similar in DUNGREED, where this is a game that tries to prioritize just a lot of build variety throughout the runs by picking up different equipment and trinkets, and that's really what's going to create unique gameplay. And I'm quite happy with that. I do want to mention that I do have quite a few issues currently with the core gameplay, but I think a lot of this is going to be able to be adjusted. One of my biggest issues from a gameplay standpoint currently is the way that the game deals with input delay. So right now, if we were to look at this, for instance, if I am to press the shield button, boom, it presses now, and then if I want to let go of the shield and immediately attack, it's almost half a second before my attack happens after the shield. And same goes the other way around. If I attack and then do a shield, I mean, right now it does look like it goes very fast, but during gameplay, a lot of times you're attacking and you want to immediately shield, but you have to wait for an animation to occur. A lot of my issues seem pretty similar, but when things are really active, it does get pretty messy, especially for the big weapon. This big weapon, if I do like a dash attack, and then I move my cursor to the other side, it's not going to follow it at the right speed. Also, the dash attack feels terrible on this weapon. This might seem like a small thing, but I think a lot of my issues, and it's hard to explain unless you've played it, is really the input lag. Sometimes you're going to press something and then you're going to try to activate it, but it's not even going to register it because you were in the middle of an action. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It really depends on the actual scenario, but I've definitely gotten into situations where I was trying to pull up my shield. Oh yeah, right there. Gosh, I mean, I can't replicate it very easily. Okay, yeah, you go. If I'm in the middle of the third attack, 1, 2, here I'm pressing shield. 1, 2, here I'm pressing shield. It's almost half a second again. So again, this is a very small thing for a lot of people, but in the midst of it all, it can get a little distracting, a little annoying, and it is one of my biggest issues currently is the fact that, yeah, a lot of different buttons, a lot of different things in this game have incoherent input buffer things. So that's something that I hope they can fix. And honestly, again, I haven't figured out exactly the issue for every scenario. So it's a case-by-case situation that I hope is just going to feel a little smoother. And this also is in correlation with the fact that hitboxes can be a little weird at times. Sometimes the dash you have iframes, but sometimes you don't really very easily. Sometimes I dash to something and I still take damage, and I don't really understand why. And there's just a lot of these little weird, tiny details, but all brought together. You're going to take some damage here and there. You're not going to be completely sure why. Other than that, like, it does feel pretty good to be able to attack in quick succession, especially with certain weapons. The big weapon actually is pretty fun because of the wide area you have. I thought it was going to be pretty underpowered compared to other weapons, but it's actually pretty fun, except for the dash attack. That dash attack feels absolutely terrible. And for the dagger, there's an entire parry mechanic where if you do an attack and you parry at the right time, you won't take damage. But the weird thing is that the parry is not at the blade, it's at your own hitbox, which is weird. Why is not the blade? Like, I can see the animation of it being the white thing that I want to block with, but no, like, attacks have to hit you for it to be parried, otherwise it just doesn't do anything, which is weird. So anyway, yeah, gameplay is pretty solid in its core, but a little finicky here and there. I hope that they just smooth things out throughout the updates. Let's talk about the actual roguelike elements. This is where things get pretty interesting. Differently than DUNGREED, here there is an inventory management portion of the game. So in this game, you have an inventory. Now, this inventory, you might recognize it from Backpack Hero, right? You're going to be placing certain things in your inventory, and depending on when they are, sometimes they're going to benefit from other things, blah, blah, blah. Now, the big thing in this game is that you have two different kind of items you're going to be adding to your inventory. You got relics, artifacts, and then you've got tablets. Now, tablets are actually things that are going to increase the power level of your artifacts automatically in your inventory. So right now, I can actually get an example. So here, I started with a tablet here, and this tablet right here says that it increases the artifact level of things in this row. So every artifact, most of artifacts will have different power levels. They can go up to like 8 sometimes, so you can really try to buff a bunch of them and they get more powerful. But those tablets also take space in your inventory, so that's the management, right? You want things to buff your artifacts, but you also want artifacts. It's a whole thing about managing your inventory. Now, I think this system is cool, but I think they didn't go far enough to play around with a lot of these things. So for instance, you would expect that a lot of these artifacts are going to have restrictions in the inventory, and you really have to manage where to place them, and some are going to be bigger than others, but not really. About 80 to 90% of items don't have any inventory issues. You can put them wherever you want. It doesn't really matter. There's really not that many synergies to placing things in the right order. There's very few artifacts that actually do things to other artifacts around them, which I think is a bit of a shame, because you could really play around with some cool stuff. There is one artifact, for instance, for the planet build, where any planets you put around it is going to deal more damage. And that's really cool, but there's like none of them. They really don't exist other than this thing. So that's a little disappointing. I think they could have gone way further with that concept. Currently, it just feels like there's just one idea that's interesting, but they just kind of like stopped at the basics of it. I mean, by the late game, it can be fun to just have to like make sure that you're, you have to move your tablets around and try to buff your artifacts, but it's not as fun as other games of this genre, just because the only thing you're trying to do is just mathematically place things around to make sure that everything can benefit evenly or well enough with all the +1s and +2s and +3s around. Yeah, it's fun. I'm not against it. I just think they could go even further. The actual roguelike items, the artifacts you will find, are similar to DUNGREED, where they have a lot of interesting designs, and they're really cool to find. There's a bunch of them. I do think they need to add way more, even though there's quite a few, but I think for this kind of game, you really want a bunch of artifacts, because even though there's a lot, every time you level up or every time you find an artifact, you get to choose from a choice of 5 of them, and you can reroll them a bunch, so you're going to be finding the same artifacts pretty often. Hopefully they add a bunch more, which I know they will. You've got different builds that they're trying to push. There are certain items that are specific to just certain builds. Currently, what I will say about the different builds is there are really 3 builds that are possible: fire, cold, or lightning build. Now, in this game, there's a lot of different items for different things, right? You'll get your crit damage, you'll get your certain little planet things, you'll get your companions, you'll get, certain items that increase your armor, blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, right now, from a balance standpoint, these are your builds, and I think they're a little too powerful, or vice versa, the other builds are just too weak. But if you go all in on the fire build, you just pick everything that has the word fire, And if you have an all lightning build, you go everything that has the word lightning. And all the other items don't really matter anymore, which is a bit of a shame. Now, again, this is at a high level for me. I've completed this game, 100%ed the game. I've been the true final boss, at least in the early access. I've been in a hard mode level 10 or 11. I can go higher. So in every single time, I could not beat the game without choosing an elemental build. And when you do an elemental build, it's super satisfying. But I kind of wish that there were more items that would kind of synergize with different builds, which they try to push a little bit, but I think currently this doesn't work as well. I kind of wish there were like, you know, if you have fire stuff, then your lightning can do this. If your lightning stuff have that, your companions deal more damage. Your companions can increase that. Your corrosion now also inflicts fire damage, and if you have fire damage, your corrosion do blah, blah, blah. I want more things to really kind of wrap around with each other, because currently it kind of does feel like, again, if I'm going for frost, only getting frost doesn't really matter what else I do, and I feel completely overpowered. If I go anything other than elemental, it is extremely hard. It's cool because there's some really cool builds. We just did a companion build, which was pretty terrible, but I did it. From a balance standpoint, that's something to keep in mind for me. But I love the ideas of all the relics. I think they're really cool. The artifacts, sorry, I'm always going to say that. It's similar to DUNGREED. Really cool designs. Hopefully they just kind of like tweak the balance on the elemental builds. In terms of the actual level design and enemy design, right now there are 1, 2, 3, 4 biomes. You always go through the same one. You go through different rooms. Each room you'll fight different enemies, and then you're gonna find certain unique events in each map. I do like the maps that have multiple rooms. There are certain times a map that just has one big room with a big wave. I don't like those as much. I think they kind of are boring. But when you get to explore the different maps, it is pretty cool. You will find secret rooms, which I think the secret rooms are done pretty well. They are hard to find, and they are very rewarding when you find them. And you will come across some pretty unique events here and there. I hope they add even more unique events, because I think this game really does thrive on the discovery and the adventurous part of the game. So I hope they're going to add even more. But I love the exploration. There are mini bosses you can fight. Currently, there's only one mini boss per biome, so hopefully they will add new ones. The bosses are pretty cool. There's currently 2 different bosses you can fight in the first 2 biomes. Only one currently in the 3rd biome. I'm assuming they're going to add more. But again, more variety, more diversity. I think it's going to be really cool. But every time I found that, when I first found like my second boss of the 2nd biome, it felt awesome. I was like, oh my gosh, who are you? And it was, you know, a learning curve. I think it's cool. Great exploration, cool events. It feels like an adventure. That's kind of like the most important part of this game overall, is just the fact that this is a fun little RPG adventure. When you first start playing, every time you finish a run, you'll come back to the hub and you get to, you know, upgrade the hub, and you get to do these little mini quests. The mini quests are kind of, you know, chores, but they're cute, you know, like the guy from the village is like, oh, can you please get me water? And you go get some water, and then he's like, thank you, and then you unlock something. You're like, oh, hell yeah. So, you know, that's really cool. It kind of gives a life to the hub and the overall story and the characters. I mean, one of the coolest things for me in this game was when I got back to the hub and I got to this location here where I was like, oh, can you build, like, this was like all in ruins, and I was like, can you help me rebuild this? And I did. And then I got in here, and then there was like this wall full of like, that was just like a little puzzle. It was mysterious, and then I had to build the puzzle back, and then like some things started shining, and then I unlocked a brand new like freaking talent tree. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. It felt like so mysterious and so rewarding to build that and to get an entire new talent tree. These kinds of things are so hard to find in roguelikes these days, and it's just so rewarding. Every time I would come back to the hub, I was just so excited to see if there was going to be something new that would pop out, a new NPC, a new event. Currently, there's not that much, but I'm assuming they're going to add more and more. But even so, the first few hours were just so exciting to come back to the hub because of it. And in the hub currently, I mean, there's a lot of content. You can play multiplayer here, which again, I have not played multiplayer. Obviously, a lot of the things I say can be drastically different depending on if you're playing multiplayer or not. Once again, I just talk about this game as a single player. But there's also the hard mode you'll unlock to increase the difficulty of your runs. And one of the rewards you get from clearing these difficulties, you get more talent points, which we'll be talking about in just a moment. But you actually get pretty big rewards from clearing higher difficulty runs later on, which is great. I like having a good reason to play. I hope there's an even bigger reward at the end, but we'll see. There's also different costumes. These are your different characters you can play. They all play fairly differently. Some are pretty basic. You have less health, but you have more armor. Sure, you're not going to create anything too crazy. More evasion, but less crit, whatever. But more importantly, stuff like this guy. You get more inventory slot, but you have less healing. You're like, okay. More fire damage, but less cold damage. Like, well, now you try to push, you know, elemental build. Infinite dash, but you don't have iframes. These are cool characters. And every time that you beat a run with a character, you actually get a border. So you can try to, you know, 100% with every single character, which is awesome. You know, it gives you a reason to continue. Like, oh, I haven't beaten with the red-clothed cat yet, so you're gonna try to go for that build. So that's cool. Once again, you do have the training area. You know, you can practice with your weapons in there, but you know, mostly you'll get like a little tutorial the first time you upgrade these things. You have your house right here. In the house, you'll get your mirror, which you don't actually need to go into the house for it, but it's kind of cool that it's right there. And the mirror is really cool. Now, this looks very similar to DUNGREED, and they did the same thing as DUNGREED, which I'm not against. Basically, instead of having an entire talent tree, you're going to pretty much have talent points that you can put into different categories, and they will inherently give you stats, but more importantly, each like 5, 10, and 20 points put into them are going to give you a drastically major like mechanical change sometimes. The idea of this is that it's super easy to change and reset and just adjust. You can just do this, and then if you don't like it, you can reset it and go for another one. And the reason is because each of these are kind of like new characters, all things considered. So the idea is once you're done with the run and you want to try a different build, you know, like, oh, I'm going to go for a longsword, fire damage build, but I don't want to do crit anymore, so I'm going to reset this. I'm not going to go for the crit build. I'm instead going to go for the survival with a bit of the endure to get the second level of the endure, and boom. Not only do you get to choose your weapon, your character, but also the talent tree, which drastically changes certain things. So I really like the amount of customization you have from the start, thanks to the talent tree, the costumes, and the weapons. That gives you a lot, and I hope they're going to keep on adding more to it. This is currently also the tree, like for the lore thing that I was talking about. And this is actually like your more traditional meta progression unlocks that you're going to get. There's a lot here, all things considered. It took me 15-20 hours to get everything, but I've unlocked everything, and this is going to be your basic stuff. But, you know, once again, some of those are going to be really cool to unlock in your first time around. You know, like, oh, you repair your destroyed house. You unlock the great sword. You unlock the dagger. Ooh, you unlock the bridge, the holes that I talked about with the arc and everything. When I first saw this as an option, I got really excited. And ultimately, again, you're just going to get much stronger. It is definitely a roguelite in that regard, but it's very satisfying to grind, in my opinion. Now, there's also going to be like a true ending, and you know, like the first time you fight the final boss, it's going to be different than the next time you're going to fight it, because then you get to unlock the true final ending of this particular early access. I expect them to add a lot more to like the true final encounter. If they're going to do the same thing as DUNGREED, which I really hope, then there's going to be a lot of different steps to get the true ending, which for me was one of the coolest parts of DUNGREED, especially since in this game, I think it took me like 4 or 5 runs to get the true ending. I got to kill the true final boss currently very quickly, so I hope they're gonna really get a whole quest to get to the true final boss. So we'll see. I expect that from them after DUNGREED, so yeah, hopefully I won't be disappointed. Okay, so those were like all my general notes. Now I definitely want to talk about some more specifics. First, I'm going to talk about some cool little positives. I like how during combat, there are going to be some oozes that are going to spawn in every single biome. The cool thing about those oozes is that they are actually aggressive towards everybody, including other enemies. So you'll start to see like actual enemies fight oozes. And so there's this feeling of like constantly being in a battle, because in any biome there are going to be some oozes spawning and everybody's fighting the oozes, and it's just a constant chaos around you. It's a small thing, but it's really cool to see that oozes actually attack everybody and creating just a lot of chaos, especially when you have companions with you, which, you know, are artifacts that also add like a little guy that's going to follow you around. It kind of creates this like an entire battle scene with a bunch of teams kind of fighting each other. Really cool vibe. I really like that. you can kill certain NPCs during runs, and I didn't even do it because I was too scared to see what would happen, because when you start hitting certain NPCs, they have a shield, and then you can break that shield, and then there's a message that pops up and says, are you sure you want to do this? Because things will be different from here on out. I don't know if it was like from here on out on the run or for the entire game, and I was like, I don't want to risk like a Souls-like changing my entire file. I'm assuming it's not going to be like that, but it was really cool to see that. I didn't really experiment too much with it. I did experiment on a shopkeeper, and I will say that was a dangerous move. I mean, if you've played these games or any, roguelike game, don't screw with the shopkeepers is all I'll say. But hey, maybe you'll get rewarded. The different quests you have, the different side quests, it's cool to keep track of things and to feel like you're an RPG. I like the secret rooms layout and the runs, all that good stuff I've already talked about. But I want to talk about certain things that, again, that I wish was a little different, or that I hope they're going to change. First off, the running. So right now in this in the hub, I can run. If I stay pressed on space after the dash, I start running. It feels great, and there's even a little slide effect at the end of the run. I love the running. You cannot run during combat. I really hate that. I really want to add the run to actual combat that slowly drains your mana. I think that would add so much more to this already very simple gameplay mechanically. And including like a dash attack at the end, like maybe a unique dash attack after the run, I think would add a lot to the combat currently. I really miss the running because of how awesome it feels outside of combat. Another thing I want to talk about might be a little specific, but upon having played with it more, I think I definitely want to talk about it. So I talked about the tablets, right? So right now I have a tablet that I start with thanks to the talents, which is great. And I also have currently the last part of the survival talent, which is very specific. It shrinks your inventory, but you can permanently imprint tablets in your inventory. That means that right now, if I have this tablet and I right-click on it, boom, it will disappear, but now my inventory will have +1 permanently for the rest of the run. So right now, if I have like this little firebolt thing, I put it here, it's increased. And I can do that with every single tablet, but my inventory is smaller. And that makes sense. I love playing with the survival talent tree just because of that. To the point where I kind of wish it was part of the core gameplay. Now, okay, not the entire thing, right? I don't want every single tablet to be inscripted, but basically, I kind of wish that in the game, during the run, sometimes you can find a room where you can just upgrade random relics. And I kind of wish that instead of doing that room would just let you inscript a random tablet in your inventory, because I think that mechanic is so cool. And you can really do some crazy builds with that talent tree, but only with that particular talent tree. And I like it so much that I wish that there was a part of it that could be found in every single run. You could always find ways to imprint certain tablets here and there. I think that would be cool. I don't think it's a mistake to not have it. I just kind of wish that it was also part of the core gameplay somehow. Another thing is the camera. So the camera is always centered on you, as you can see. But I kind of wish that if I were to move my mouse closer to an edge, that the camera would slightly move towards that direction. I think that would really help players be able to see where they are more clearly. It would also really help in certain bosses. It feels really bad when certain bosses have like big like explosion type of things, like bullet hells, and you have to like step back, but you can't see the boss anymore because you're too far back. There are certain bosses that do that, and I really wish that you could move your camera a little bit more. I think that would give a bit more flexibility visually for players, and I just think it's a bit of a missed opportunity in there, especially for certain fights. It really feels like it's missing that. A lot of boss fights I feel almost necessary if you really want to evade everything. So it feels kind of cheap that you can't just see the boss that's just too far away. Another thing, and this one's going to be a little tricky to get into, but the magic system, the MP bar. So MP bar under your health is once again used for your special ability, and that's it. And that's weird. Now, that's not completely true. You can also use it for spells. You can find Grimoire. So like right now, I have a Grimoire, right? Like because I started with a particular thing, I have this Firebolt thing. And now I can do Firebolts, and they use MP. But that's only if you're planning on doing a particular MP build, like fire build thing. Otherwise, it's completely useless and you're never going to use it. The problem with the spellbook things is that the spellbook things are situational, and you're either going to go for them or you're not really. You would much rather build like a very specific synergy than having one random tome here and there, and then have to deal with, you know, like casting spells, considering that if you cast spells, you can't do your basic attack anymore. The basic attack is usually going to be better unless you're going for a magic build. The problem for me is that they're very build specific, and they're going to clutter a lot of the rewards you're going to find because you're going to have a bunch of those grimoires. Again, you might not care about the grimoires, and then they just take a lot of space and they just kind of feel weird. Now, again, you can use them for your special ability, but a special ability is also situational. If I'm going for like a basic attack with this great sword here, right, and I have an entire thing that, you know, deals like lightning damage every time I do like a basic attack, then the special takes forever to build, and also you have no iframes during this thing right here. No iframes here, which is super dangerous. Now, don't get me wrong, if it works out and you have a special attack build, then, you know, you get really rewarded and it feels good, but that once again means that if you're not going for grimoires, you're not going for special attacks, which are very situational, you're never using your MP. I wouldn't know how to fix this, but currently I feel like the MP is either you use it or you never ever use it. Including for the shield. I mean, the shield, yeah, you can use this to block things, but the blocking doesn't feel great. This is part of the issue I was talking about with the input buffer. Every time you block something, there's a little moment of where your character just takes a hit and can't act and do anything. So it doesn't feel great to block, in my opinion. And yeah, I kind of wish that just was done differently somehow. That MP could be used for more things. And ultimately, I'm going to be honest, if you could just run during combat and that uses MP, then every single build would use MP. Because currently, if you're not going for grimoires, if you're not going for special abilities, you're never using your mana. So I feel like that could be an easy solution. I gonna be honest, I tried the grimoire builds. They're just so specific, and it just did not work for me. Maybe they do in a multiplayer setting, but yeah, they just feel a little awkward a lot of time. I think a lot of the MP usage thing feels awkward, which means that a lot of items are kind of useless for me. Because a bunch of items try to give you some MP regeneration, max MP. Every time you use MP, blah, blah, blah. But I just don't care for them. And I've been doing very well not using them, going for the elemental builds, which just seem so much more powerful. So there's a little balance issue with the fact that not only are elemental spell builds too powerful, but in return, MP usage is just not rewarding enough, in my opinion. A couple final little notes here and there, very specific. On the very final map, without any spoilers, you're going to be encountering more ways to get money. And you're even going to get like rewards for like, you know, money for treasure chests, but there's never a shop before the final boss. So it's completely useless. So you can get a room reward that's all money, but you know you will not need that money. So I just think that it's just probably just an oversight on that end, because it's completely useless. And the other is a very late game. Once you have unlocked everything, the currency called Sapphire, which is what you used to build your talent tree, is completely useless right now. I don't know what I can use this for anymore. There's a very specific event that you might encounter where you can use Sapphire for a benefit, but other than that, I kind of wish there was something I could use my Sapphire on, even if it's just cosmetics or something cool for the hub, because currently, I mean, it's not a big deal because I just 100% of the game right now, so, you know, I played the game. That's cool. But I kind of wish once you've completed everything, you could at least use your Sapphire for something. That's minor, but, you know, just want to put that out there. Overall, this is a very promising game. I mean, does it compete with DUNGREED right now? Not yet, but I think with some tweaks here and there with the balance stuff, somehow if they can deal with a lot of the input buffering shenanigans that I don't love, making things feel a little smoother, making specials feel more interesting, potentially running during combat, just a way for me to use MP more content, and of course a lot of like secrets and more discovery, adventure, and RPG elements that will show me the true ending that I have to work for by, you know, having to complete a bunch of quests before I can find the true final boss. If I can get there, just like DUNGREED for me, then yeah, this could definitely become a classic. As an early access right now, it's very enjoyable. If you do want to wait for the full adventure experience, then I would recommend maybe waiting a few more months. But as is right now, I think this game is really solid. Very good time. If you like action games, if you like DUNGREED, then definitely put that in your wish list or give it a try. But yeah, that's about it.